Well, I have told before, women are usually were usually better workers in temporary jobs, and especially when the case men are organized and try in unions, basically. That's for two reasons. Because first, women usually don't feel the full burden of the family um, uh, income. Um, they are considered as secondary earners, and anyway, I mean, their opportunities are relatively lower. Their organization level is relatively lower, and inside of the house, they are also subordinate to the man, um, and in some cases also because of the family responsibilities, they might actually very well want a job with which is more flexible, which is temporary, which doesn't make them make long run plans. Um, and um, as I said, I mean the family subordination is another thing which we have seen before actually, which make women also work inside of the factories in a subordinated way. And in some cases, also the income they got from the factories are actually helping women to become more independent. So even a little income for them is might be important, which increase their motivation compared with men. And men usually don't get women into the union organizations, which again is another reason why women, especially initially, are unorganized. Um, so all of these things make create globally a trend which increase demand for women in the uh, in actually many different sectors as globalization takes place. Just show you a brief data. Well, the data itself actually shows mixed results. Of course, globalization has started. The last form of globalization has started for 1990s. Um, so to see um, its full effects, I mean, its full effects might be visible in well, especially in a small country like El Salvador, for example. Um, its effects might already be there in 1990s. And interestingly, in El Salvador, actually, the female labor force participation rate has fallen. In Paraguay, for example, it has risen, but in 1999, something must happen. It has suddenly fallen down to very low value. Um, in Taiwan, it is slightly risen. In Philippines, it is slightly risen. For in Cyprus, it has risen and then fallen. Although Cyprus, of course, it becomes a developed country, maybe more women were afforded to stay at home or get into other sectors, basically. Mm. For the other countries, in Mexico, it has more or less stayed stable. In Costa Rica, it is it has first increased up to 1998 and stayed uh, fallen down in 1999. In Brazil, it has risen. Uh, so these are the numbers, basically. Um, so still, of course, men are dominant in the manufacturing, although uh, there is a significant portion of women also, as you see in all cases, almost all of in all of them. 50% of the manufacturing sector. Even in Bahrain, which is a Muslim country, it is, I mean, it's a strict Muslim country, or Egypt, you can see uh, 40s and 60s and 70s, basically. But Seguin mentions that the well, the even though the woman increasingly take place in the economy, they enter into the manufacturing sector also. Um, the increase of their wage is still a challenge, especially when female women are increasingly concentrated in exports and men are concentrated in non-tradable sectors with non-tradable goods. And the reason can be explained by the wage and profit rate economic models. Wage rate model is actually a model where increasing wages will increase the growth rate in a country. That is the case when the economy is more closed, when increase in wage basically will increase the demand for national goods, and as a result, the economy will grow. And in that case, actually, women are more likely to spend their money, uh, and that's why female employment actually might be beneficial in creating demand in a wage economy. But if the most of the uh, demand in an economy is created by exports, in that case, of course, increasing the national demand doesn't affect the growth rate that much. And in that case, you have profit-rate economy. I mean, when you increase the profit, of course, it becomes more profitable for the companies that produce export goods to produce more, and they will produce more in that case, and they will make new investments and increase their production level. And in a world where exports increasingly become more common, countries as a whole might become more profit-led economy, turn into profit-led economies. And what can be done in that case? One thing that could be done is actually, as a national economy, a national strategy, basically restricting capital mobility. I mean, it become less possible for the capital to come to go away from your country. It become costly. You inflict certain costs, which might prevent capital to come to your country, of course. But you also might put some advantages, like which might you might give support to the companies that are exporting their goods, and especially you might take you might put certain strategies to increase the labor productivity and infrastructure in your country. So even though there is a restriction, still the companies might come because of the other advantages. And the second thing is, of course, international strategy, which is the whole economic system is in the world is a closed system, which makes the world wage-led economy. So in the whole world, ironically, when wage increases, it is necessary to increase the wage to create demand according to wage-led economic model. So that's a necessity. When all world is following a profit-led strategy, that is received for a global crisis, actually, according to the model. I have some critiques to the wage-led, profit-led model, actually. I think the world as a whole is actually a profit-led economy, and that's because the capitalists, the factory owners, they are able to create the demand themselves. I mean, besides the investments, even if necessarily by buying luxury goods. But according well, there is some data that also supports that. There are conflicting research on this subject. There is some data that also supports that. I mean, the large sections of it's necessary for the economy to have a demand created by the large sections of the society. I mean, a small minority that is owning the factories, economic assets, they actually they are not likely to create a lot of demand. They are more likely to save much of the money they have actually earned if they don't invest that money. Um, and well, the second article of Seguino is very interesting. It is showed how gender inequality and growth rates are related. Actually, I want to show you the data of this article especially. Um, but the main question is, of course, I mean, besides the other typical factors, what is the effect of the gender inequality on growth? And on the actually, as data, we will see also the other factors, not only the gender inequality. Seguino, second article, this one is. So these are the growth rates. That's 2000. So that's China is not included. The other Asian countries are included. With Philippines very low growth rate, Malaysia moderate. The top one is the Korea. Of course, these are the. So the traditional factors are technology, capital, labor, of course, the human capital can also be included. Well, female share of that's manufacturing jobs. That's 1970 and 1995, basically. Um, in the overall labor force, actually, as you see, there is some increase in most of the countries, but not all of them. In manufacturing, again, you have mixed results. Sri Lanka, for example, see a lot of increase, but on the other hand, for example, Indonesia actually have seen some fall, basically. Um, and this is distribution of the sectors. The real important, interesting part is so the difference of man and female wage, gender wage gap, and annual growth rate. As you see, there is a positive correlation between them. In Philippines, interestingly, that difference is very limited. It's also limited. It limits its growth rates. In South Korea, the gender wage gap is very large, which actually increases the growth rate. Again, investment share, you see Singapore is maybe in some sense an outlier, but still not that. So this is the regression with period averages. So when you look to the averages, basically, when you look to country characteristics, especially, not the trends, you see, well, there are different models, but you can see the details. But the main thing is in all different ways of measuring the wage gap. But in all cases, wage gap is significant and it is increasing the growth. So the more wage gap there is, the more will be the the more growth rate there will be. When you have panel data,